So, as you all know from following this series, I am super blessed to have incredible people in my life. I mean, let's call it what it is. Today, we go up a notch, and I'm not going to steal his thunder. I'm going to let him tell the story of how we met. But this opportunity is for my friend Gary Mirkin to jump on board and tell us something good. And he has a history of telling people something good. So, Mr. Mirkin, the Mirkinator, as I love to call you, welcome aboard. Tell us something good.
Thank you, Steve. And thank you for whoever's watching for being here. So it's always good to be seen. And I have something really good. It brings us back to our first meeting. And for those who may or may not know, a history on us, I was brought back to the Inc. magazine fold. I was a former publisher of Inc., sold the company for Bernie Goldhurst, the founder, but probably in 2000. And about 10 years later, I was brought back in with my original editorial team to launch something called the Build Network. This is really good. So not only did I believe in the Build Network because it was so cool and working with my old team was great, but I had a rep down in Atlanta who said, we're going to go into this guy's agency. I'm not sure he's got anyone for Build, but, so we walk into, and I heard someone say it yesterday, the day before, the coolest office in the world with the basketball hoop and, just an incredible space. And I'm like, I say to my rep, like, why are we here? What do they got? I'm thinking IBM, something big. So he goes, I don't know, but we'll just sit down. So I sat down. Steve comes out, big handshake. He's got the smile. I got the smile. So the smile's locked. And then we sit down in the conference room. I go through my spiel, which was, a pretty good spiel, I thought, anyway.
It was great. It was fantastic. Yeah.
And we go through this, and Steve's kind of just soaking it in. His team's soaking it in. Finish, get up, we shake hands. Steve goes, this is great, and this is what's great. By the time I got to Fort Lauderdale Airport, which was probably 45 minutes later, I called Steve and I said, I got a deal. We got to do some business together. It's not the Build Network, it's something else. And I turned Steve onto this pogo stick thing.
That's right. Oh my God. And I forgot that part of the story. Holy shit.
Anyway, it was just serendipity. And I think serendipity has so much to do with what everyone should be opened up for in life. You just don't know where it's all going to come from. It started a pretty exciting and fun, not very successful business ride, but we spent a lot of time together. It was, the idea was good for the pogo stick. So imagine a pogo stick on steroids where you can communicate with people in Israel or the Ukraine and who's jumping higher. You can see their stats. Anyway, so that's something good. How we met, the way we kept together, bunch of different up in New York.
You bring up a great point. Because that was the first at bat, and it wasn't successful, but it was nothing short of fun. I mean, we spent time in New York, really building that company, and there were a lot of factors that made it go south, but we didn't give up. We kept going. It was like, all right, that to me is such a good, because we knew that it was fun. I remember being in the park with you, like down, oh shit.
Do you remember? This was like the ex-Olympics on pogo sticks. It was unbelievable. It was unbelievable.
That's great. That is so fantastic. So I know your life story. I know what's happened to you recently pre-COVID. And when we first jumped on, I love the fact that here we are in our COVID-ness.
Yeah.
So that's a new word. If you're open to sharing, tell people a little bit about your journey and how you fought back, you're here, and all of that stuff, which is so inspiring. And that's what I want in the afternoons, is to give people that dose of, hey man, you're not alone.
Sure. So about a year and a half ago, I was on my friend's boat. I'm actually writing a book about this called A Day on the Boat. But I had noticed that one of my ankles was a bit swollen. I don't remember twisting it or whatever. And as we're going back in, I noticed there was something there. There was something wrong. So I got home. Of course, I tell my wife. My wife is like on the phone with every doctor we possibly could get in touch with. And I go and I have just a normal doctor's visit. And the guy comes in a week later. We come back and tells me I have something called amyloidosis. And I never heard of it. Most people haven't. I think only about 4,000 people in the US had it last year. It's a very rare blood disorder. Not too far away from cancer, but it's not cancer. Anyway, over the last year,
no cure.
No cure. There is no cure. So, so I look at my doctor and I go, so you telling me I'm dying? And, obviously too young to die. I got too much shit to do. And, I needed to do Noodleberg's program. So, anyway, he tells me there's one way to not cure it, but kick it. And that is a stem cell transplant. I'm like, I look at my wife, she's now, a mess in tears on the floor. And I'm like, okay, tell me what that is. And, I obviously knew something about it, but so he tells me the whole rigmarole that I'm about to go through. I look at my wife and I'm like, we got to go home to a 13-year-old kid. Guess what? We got to be up and up about it and let her know I'm not dying. I got to go through this thing. So I went through this thing, and the whole time I went through this thing, I just pushed and pushed and pushed. And, physically I lost, Steve can attest because he saw me last summer, I guess. And
when I visited New York, I didn't want to tell you, man, but it was creepy, man.
Yeah, and it was really weird. I lost about 40 pounds and I lost all my hair. And, if I didn't have anything, I had hair. So,
I actually like the bald thing. So
anyway, here I am today. I plowed through it. I've done all the meds. I'm off the meds now. And now I'm working out. I'm launching one business, which is incredibly exciting, that actually helped me through my time in the hospital, which was about 6 weeks in this HEPA-locked sealed room. And I have my other digital advertising company, which is doing fantastically well. And that's where I'm at right now.
So I love that. So you say you were in a room that was locked up for 6 weeks. Then you go through all of that, you start getting healthy, and then this is another like boulder from outer space. What was your reaction to like, holy shit, how can this be happening?
So, yeah, there's no lack of challenges thrown at the planet. So my particular situation is I have to be really careful because I have an immune system of a 3-year-old. So I can't really go into, and I've been into stores, the small liquor stores, small convenience stores, but I'm not going into Target or any of the big stores. So my thing was call my doctor right away and say, what do I do now? So I work out of the house anyway. That wasn't a change. Now I have all these buddies of mine here. I'm in Westchester and everybody, 40 years of commuting on the train. Everyone's saying, I'll never get on a train again, or I love working out of the house. It's definitely going to change the landscape of New York City office space, So that's how I looked at it. And this is what I've done. I've basically stayed, close to home. I go hiking, 3-4 times a week. I see my daughter all the time. She lives in the next town over. I got my little one still in the house, and we've managed to get through.
Love it. So, when you think back of your career at Inc. and, Build, you had a pretty good pulse on the business community back then.
Yeah.
And there were lots of challenges back then. What's your sort of memory or takeaway from, big challenges then that you overcome and you look back, sort of, give us your business, 10,000 feet,
Yeah. So, I mean, everybody's challenged, local retail. The banks are the only ones that are giving out money and taking in money. So that's good. Real estate's tough. And obviously it depends what market you're in. New York is still on lockdown. It's just coming out. My feeling is, thank God, I'm in a technology segment that it's an island and it hasn't been hurt. It's actually been bolstered by the fact that people are surfing the internet all the time. Digital advertising is booming, publishers are crying for some sort of help. We can help them with my company. But I really think that this is going to be a long-term, lockdown, semi-lockdown, people coming out. And I think there's probably, and I'm taking this from TV, going to be spike ups and spike downs. But if you're in something you believe in and it's good enough and you think it's great, and just keep working it. That's all.
I love that. It's the 90 days that we've been in this mess in the span of your lifetime is a blip. It's exactly. Just a blip on the map. It's never easy when you're in it. Turbulence is, when you're on a plane and it's jipping, japping around, it's never easy. Then you land and you have no problem getting on the plane again. Right. So it's really mindset, which leads me to the second part of my question with you is that, what would you say the key ingredients have been for you in your career? Because you've obviously managed change really well. You've bought and sold companies, working for Inc. I mean, Inc. magazine, when I heard that Inc. wanted to come visit our agency, I was like, Inc., what does Inc. want to do with us?
Same thing I said.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, listen, I had no pretenses. I was like, we were a sports marketing company, but ultimately, we did align on some business thinking. So what would you say your key ingredients to success were and are?
So this is going to sound pretty simple. I mentioned serendipity before. Serendipity has a lot to do with it. You just don't know who you're going to run into or who you're going to meet, or so constantly keep your eyes out and open. The other thing is timing. More than anything, timing is really a key factor in great ideas, executable ideas. The way you get your resources together. It's a tremendous factor. And don't kid yourself. You could have the best idea today and timing might not be wrong, but if you stick with it, it will eventually turn. So, it's all how you tell your story. We did a cover on Build one time that had just a sharpened pencil, and it said, tell a story. And if you tell your story right and you stick with it, and there is a value prop, then, it goes a long way.
I love that. And so let's drill down there for a second. And this is part of what I've learned as a coach now. Most people tell their story in terms of what they do, not in terms of who they are. And you and we wound up doing stuff together, had nothing to do with what we were doing.
Correct.
Absolutely nothing. It was like I owned an agency, you were doing this publishing thing, and we were like, fuck that. Let's just kind of,
right.
Let's get in the boat together and go figure something out. So I think that pencil thing really sends an image to me. That's why I love talking to you, because there's certain people that poke me, that they get me spinning and thinking. It really is all about your narrative. What do you bring to the table? Who are you? You brought so much in that meeting. And interestingly enough, had the guy come alone, I would have never met you. I would have never followed up with him. I mean, it was a whole different relationship, and you were and so I think for me, just kind of capitalizing on that part of the dialogue, for me, the value of every meeting is the person, not the opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. The day before I met with you, I was at the Disney Institute with him, meeting with their thought leadership team, because that's what Build was about. So imagine going from the Disney Institute to Disney, which was your offices, and fun, smart group, and everybody really had a takeaway from that particular meeting. I thought it was great.
What's really funny? As a kid, I used to watch a show called 30 Something.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that show, but it was really cool. These two young guys that owned an agency, and they had a cool loft, and they were doing it different. And I always said to myself, at some point in my life, I'd like to have that kind of place where you were doing great work, but it wasn't working. You know, it was kind of, and that was the thought behind, hey, why don't we make our conference room basically a suite in a stadium?
Yeah.
So when you open those big doors, and it was like, you know,
Great.
it was really fun. I mean, we got written up in magazines and stuff. And you know, as you move through your career, you look back on stuff that you miss. I missed that office. That was a fun place to go every day. We had a cool little gig there. So anyway, so now it's June. What's next for Gary Mirkin?
So I'm in the midst of, and I don't want to be commercial here. So, but
why not be commercial?
About 18 months ago, just before I went in to, you know, have my treatment and everything, again, serendipity, a buddy of mine has an ad agency here in New York, and he goes, you got to meet this guy, and, you know, he's going to be in New York and blah, 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 blah. So I'm like, what's it about? He goes, it's virtual reality. He's like, I don't really get it. So I was introduced to these guys, and they had created a platform that is basically digital therapy. So if you think of Calm and Headspace, but you take one of these, hold on a second. You take one of these goggles and you download our app, and you have immersive digital therapies that now take you through hundreds and hundreds, anxiety, depression, uplifting, downlifting, sleep, you know, memory loss, all kinds of things that are done with scientific backed studies and binaural beats and all kinds of brain entrainment and things like that. It's not hypnosis, but I'm telling you, if you do this, that got me through the whole hospital thing. We have now, I said to them, I don't know how I can help you, but so anyway, the way I helped them was I introduced them to the biggest healthcare provider in New York State, the biggest employer in New York State, company like WeWorks, and a bunch of pipeline things that they're ready to take us on, and they're ready to buy the platform. And so that's what I'm into now. I'm obviously working on my digital advertising company, which is a separate thing, and all very exciting. And it's,
were you like waiting to surprise me with that thing, or well, you know, why don't I know about that?
So we should talk offline.
You know, so that in my mind falls right in the telemedicine mentality, is that people are not going to go to an office for therapy anymore. They're just not, you know.
So it's
they can access that through an app and really be experienced. Huh?
Not to be commercial, but you can access that through an app on this. And, you know, with headphones, it's not as immersive as putting on a VR. So the goal here is to get it into, we're working with the Veterans Administration for PTSD, working with old age homes. You know, it's a world that is coming. So it's very exciting.
I'm in. I'm raising my hand. I'm in. I want no more. And so I will close with one of the best things about you and that's why we're dangerous together, is you never know about the power of an introduction. One introduction can change the trajectory of your life.
Exactly.
You know, I was on with Jesse Itzler a couple of, weeks ago, and it was one of the things he said, man, it's his career. I mean, a guy who's a multi-billionaire, just fascinating. I love spending time with you. You are a solid friend, human, all that good karma stuff. I'm proud of the work that you've done to get yourself better. You look amazing. I still think you might want to try the bald thing.
I was thinking about it, but now I'm thinking of growing a ponytail. So
there you go. You know what? You and a ponytail, forget about it. But let's schedule time offline. I'm really excited that you're doing well. And as always, if you need me, I'm just a text away.
Thank you for having me on. You put a smile on my face every morning at 8 o'clock.
You're awesome, brother. Thank you.
All right, man. Be good.
Be good.
Bye.